Hey everyone, welcome to Ask Nutritionist Deepa's another video cast and podcast. And today I'm extra thrilled because the question that I will be asking my dear friend Meryl Fury, who is the president of PVNM and one of my hero and mentor in the plant-based space, is here to answer the question, what food represents Black culture and what is the culinary history of this food? And Meryl, welcome. And I couldn't find a better person than you to help us dive into this question.
Well, thank you. It's always a pleasure and lots of fun talking with you, Deepa. So thanks for inviting me. I'm happy to be here. We're in Black History Month, and I think it's really appropriate to focus on our health in particular during Black History Month. That has a lot to do with our history and a lot to do with how we look forward.
Absolutely. So, Meryl, let's start talking about what foods really represent this population, this beautiful culture.
Yeah. So I'm taking that to mean you want to know, like, if I think of my family history, or because African American culture is very broad, right? There's so many different regional differences. There are origin differences. African American is not one what we call a monolithic culture, right?
Correct.
It's like for India, people come from the north of India, south of India, by the water, by the mountains, right? It's all different.
Yeah.
And not everybody has the same background. But very often when we think of African American foods, or what's important in Black American foods, we think of soul food, so that's greens and black-eyed peas, and certainly macaroni and cheese has a place in a lot of people's hearts. Ribs, barbecued ribs. If you go, like, okay, I'll take my family's culture. My mom was from the Southeast, coming through like Virginia, the Carolinas, and that way, and then up through New Jersey. In her family, it was important that we had chitlins and hog maws and bacon with cracklins and fatback and things like that, right? My father's side came through the Caribbean, so that's a different spin on it again, right? And lots of rice and beans and plantains. And then, of course, the meat products as well. There's pork and there's goat and there's bull and there's, things like that. So I guess it kind of depends on where you're from. You could also look at Louisiana, then you're getting into the more Creole style things, the blackened spices and blackened seasonings and gumbos and things like that.
Jambalaya and gumbo.
Jambalaya, yeah. Yes, exactly.
I mean, so I have been doing a lot of reading. I, in general, like to explore food cultures, and I travel, so I have had opportunities to try different foods in different countries, and so on and so forth. And as I was researching, the core, the center of this palette, if a plate, if you take it, consists of greens, turnip greens, collard greens. It consists of yams and, like you said, plantain and sweet potato, even regular potato. Then we, of course, have beans like black-eyed peas, lima beans. I saw red beans. Going back to the vegetables, okra, some really, really powerful, dense, nutritionally dense vegetables, and these beans. And in fact, I was also intrigued by the use of sorghum syrup as a sweetener in some recipes. So sorghum is a millet, and the sorghum syrup is almost like maple syrup, and that was used in some of these recipes. So that just shows us how nutritionally dense these foods can be.
So, I mean, I think it's important to look at, if we look at the food history, and I am by no means like a full expert on this. So I'm going to talk from my experience and what little bit of research I've done. In Africa, on the west coast of Africa, which is where so many of the slaves were taken from, the traditional foodways were, as you're describing, greens, like maybe some forms of kales or collards, not necessarily the same greens we have here, because it's, a whole continent over there, but very much a lot of greens. Rice was another important thing. And the yam, different from the sweet potato. Yam, I believe, is the root of an iris family plant, right? So that was a lot of it. And then beans for sure, cowpeas, known as black-eyed peas, right? And when the people were taken from Africa and brought against their will, of course, to America, the people who were doing the trading, the slave trading, figured out they had to feed the slaves something, right? They couldn't just give them complete garbage, right? So they brought some of the food that the slaves were used to eating along with the slaves to keep them alive, right? Then once the slave population landed in America, well, that's a whole different thing. Then the slaves are a commodity. They are, for lack of, they're a chattel, right? They're a workhorse. They're a cow. They're an ox. They're doing labor. One of the ways to maximize your profit is to have to minimize your overhead, right? So they fed the slaves very, very poor quality food, the cheapest they could. That's a lot of how the diet was, I'm going to say, skewed. It was twisted. It was, and that was intentionally. It was intentionally manipulated to poorer quality food.
So it's very important for somebody, all of us, to maybe start making a simple change. It could be, like you said, start putting vegetables, fruit, rice, and beans. I mean, it's that's how simple it is. And if we take this, let's say, these 4 core ingredients, we can make wonderful African American flavors, like maybe jollof rice or jambalaya. We can make that hopping John, which I really like, And then I haven't made it in a while, and I who knows, if I find time sometime this week, I'll make it, and it will be part of this video, or maybe for next week. Is there is that, it's like a relish called chow chow, and it has okra, and it has corn and green tomato and cabbage, and it's spicy. I love spicy food. So it's especially near and dear to my heart. And I had made it long time ago, maybe 7-8 years ago. And then I forgot all about it until very recently when I contacted you to make this episode. So that chow chow recipe, I think if I make 5 zillion gallons of it, I can put it on everything I eat. I can give you 1 zillion gallons.
Yes.
Well, and then you can put it on your avocado toast, you can put it on your rice and beans, you can put it on sweet potato. So we have to get creative.
If you want to look for healthier, culturally connected food ways, go back to how people in Africa ate.
Absolutely.
There is a recipe, actually, Deepa, I'll send you the link. Please post it with this, with this episode. Yeah. It's called domoda. It's a Gambian peanut stew. Ooh. So delicious, so flavorful. Doesn't have a lot of peanuts in it, and you can barely taste the peanut. Of course, if you have an allergy, I would not recommend peanut butter. If you have an allergy to that, use sunflower butter or something like that. But so good with cinnamon and ginger, and my mouth is watering, coriander, and tomatoes and beans. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. That's the type of food that we need to be eating. And then couple that with brown rice and have some greens in there. And that's the stuff that life is made of, So
the parting note is, let's go back to our core plate which is yams, sweet potatoes, plantain, black-eyed peas, lima beans,
Greens.
red beans,
Yes.
all kinds of greens,
Yes. Rice.
corn, or hopefully organic corn, rice, okra, sweet potato, cabbages, and get our blood pressure under control, blood sugar under control, lose some weight, and life will be happy. And that's it. That is a real tribute to our culture. Not just going out and getting
Yes.
Hallmark cards and wishing each other. No, we have to. We if we want to respect, if we want to pay, be grateful and show our respect to our culture, then we have to go and do some what can I say, introspection, and see what is it about my culture that I'm proud of and I can learn to bet for the betterment of my life and those around me. So,
Yeah.
Meryl, thank you so much. As usual,
My pleasure.
interesting conversation.
Yes. My pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. And everybody, please, let's cook the recipe that Meryl is going to send us. It's peanut stew, you said?
Yeah. Gambian peanut stew, also
Gambian peanut
called
stew.
domada. Yeah. I will
So
send it to you like immediately.
immediately, yes. And if I get my act together, I might be able to make it. And
You'll
we
love
will,
it.
yeah, and it will be perfect. So thanks, everybody. Take it easy until I see you next time. Please eat your greens, beans, lentils, spices, herbs, and be happy. Thank you.